Good morning and welcome to the special called Tarrant County Commissioners Court meeting of, seems like there's a lot of feedback there, of Monday, September 22nd, 2025. I now call the meeting to order.
Tim O'Hara, County Judge.
Present.
Roderick Miles Jr., Commissioner Precinct 1.
Here.
Elisa Simmons, Commissioner Precinct 2. Matt Krause, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
Manny Ramirez, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
How we doing now? Better? Okay. All right, today's invocation will be led by our Public Health Director, Dr. Brian Bird. Please rise for the invocation and our pledges to our flags.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. Please pray with me. This morning we pray to you, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We bow our heads in humility and in reverence and supplication to you. For as you said, apart from you, Lord, we can do nothing.
Yes.
It was you who told us, seek the peace and the prosperity where we are planted. And those two things which are hard to come by, Lord, we ask for those this morning. Peace and prosperity for our county. We pray for every person on this dais, Lord. Fill us with your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Lord, we pray this in the name of the one who said, before Abraham was, I am, and who said, I will lay my life down and I will take it up again. And we pray this in the name of the one who is coming again. His precious name is Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dr. Bird. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Do we have any announcements from our commissioners?
I'll just say real quick, I don't know if you had the chance to watch the Charlie Kirk memorial service yesterday, but for anybody who did not, I would encourage you to go look for Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, to watch her speech. It was one of the most moving, powerful, important addresses, I think, that we've heard in a long time. And so very articulate. Again, very powerful, lots of forgiveness, and just seeing person after person elevate the person of Jesus Christ yesterday in our country, being live streamed to hundreds of millions of people, was pretty inspiring and encouraging to me. So again, I would encourage you to go watch that Erica Kirk speech. It was quite moving.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause. Anything? Nope. Okay. All right. Now we move to our first item, which is 5A1. Consideration of Tarrant County's tax rate and resolution for tax year 2025. I move that the property tax rate for Tarrant County be decreased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.1862 per $100 in value, which is a 0.69% decrease in the property tax rate and will raise more property tax revenue than the previous year.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion before speakers?
Yes. Colleagues, neighbors, and residents of Tarrant County, today I must speak with honesty and conviction about the decision that's before us. I will vote no on the proposed tax rate. That is not a decision made for headlines, nor it is a move in some political contest. It is my decision that's rooted in responsibility to the people who depend on this county every single day. At the heart of my decision are the men and women who make Tarrant County work. Our county staff are the foundation of every service we provide. They are the ones who answer emergency calls, who keep our courts open, who care for our most vulnerable neighbors, and who maintain the infrastructure that allows this county to grow. Without them, the promises we make to the public would never become reality. To threaten those staff, to use their jobs or their livelihoods as bargaining chips in political disputes, in my opinion, is to undermine the very foundation of our county. It erodes public trust, weakens morale, and jeopardizes the ability of government to meet even the most basic needs of our people. Our staff are not pawns to be moved for partisan gain. They are public servants who deserve stability, respect, and the tools to do their work with dignity. I am especially mindful of the future of the JPS hospital system. JPS is not just a hospital. It is the heartbeat of our public health safety net. It is where working families turn for care, where the uninsured find hope, where our frontline responders receive care in emergencies, and where lives are saved every day. Undermining its future would be to jeopardize the well-being of every community in this county. I will continue to work with anyone, regardless of party, who understands how essential JPS is to the health and security of our people. Lowering taxes can be a worthy goal, but when it is done with regard for growth, with regard for needs, and without regard for people, when it's without regard for needs and without regard for people, it ceases to be responsible. True fiscal responsibility requires balance. It requires us to use every tax dollar wisely, but also to ensure that we have the resources to meet the needs of today while preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. My faith teaches me that leadership is rooted in compassion, not destruction, about lifting people up, not tearing institutions down. As affirmed in Matthew 25:45, when we fail to care for the most vulnerable and overlooked, it is as if we have turned our backs on Jesus himself. That scripture doesn't just inspire me, it holds me accountable. It reminds me that public services are not about advancing political interests. It's about serving people with dignity, purpose, and unwavering commitment. That is the standard I bring to this role, and it is why I will vote no against the lowering of tax rates. I believe the strength of Tarrant County would not be measured by how much political gamesmanship takes place in this chamber, but how faithfully we serve the people who depend on us. And that begins with protecting and valuing the staff who make every service possible. I was not here last week because I was sick. I had strep throat and a severe urinary tract infection that had me doubled over in the bed all week long. My fever did not break until Thursday. I did not miss court today because I am not willing to risk the lives of the people that serve alongside me because of political games. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to jeopardize being able to support the residents who I represent by having all of my budget pretty much decimated because of political points. I would appeal to the members of this court that we rise above political agendas, partisanship, and do what's best in the interest of people. Let's not strip away the livelihood of people who have committed their lives and their time and their service to this county because we're upset because quorum was broken. I heard it said that actions have consequences, and I don't disagree with that. But when the consequences include people who had no part in the actions, that's unfair and that's unjust. The people that worked alongside me did not give their permission to have their jobs taken away from them or threaten to have their jobs taken away from them. The residents of Tarrant County Precinct 1 did not commit to saying, We don't want to have representation. We don't want to have people who can't provide for us, who advocate for us, or to support us. They had no role in that. So they should not be pawns in a political game. I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody. I'm just stating what I believe is the current affairs that we are sitting here dealing with today. Let's not use people. We were elected to serve people, not use them for political points. We were elected to represent all people, not just the ones that agree with us. And for those in my community, my commitment and my pledge has always been from day one to serve you unapologetically, to stand up for you, to advocate for you, to make sure that you have the things that you need to be able to enjoy what we call the American dream. That's my job. My job is to serve people. My job is not to serve political agendas. My job is not to serve different ideologies. My job is to serve people. And I'm going to serve people to the best of my ability. I'm going to do what I believe God has put on my heart to do, to represent people well, to make the name of Jesus great in the earth, in the way that I carry myself. I will not be bullied by anybody. I'm going to do what I believe is right. I'm going to stand up for truth, even if I have to stand by myself. That's how much I take this. That's how seriously I take the work that we do here. And it is my prayer, my colleagues, that we would rise above and rise up to live out what we profess as our faith, and that is to take care of people. That's all I got. And it's my desire and my prayer is that we lay aside all of these differences and reinstitute the original budget so that each one of us can serve the people that we were elected to serve. Lay aside your consequences and let's do what's right for Tarrant County. Let's do what's right for people. Let's do what's right for the faith that we profess. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Commissioner Miles, I appreciate you being here today. I know we discussed, your reasons for being gone last week, and I appreciate the fact that you've stated that it was not an intentional quorum break on your part. Because in my perspective, they can do that in Austin, they can do that in DC, but we don't do that in Tarrant County. In Tarrant County, whenever you say you're here to represent people, you show up to represent them. And at the end of the day, when we say actions have consequences, the consequence is that those folks don't have representation. I mean, you talk about the consequence on people. It's the citizens of Tarrant County that don't get a tax rate voted on. How we operate here is you show up, you dialogue, you discuss, and sometimes your perspective carries the day and wins, and sometimes it doesn't. But you show up and you take part. And so in my perspective, that's the way that responsible government is run. I've heard a lot of untrue things stated about the impacts of this tax rate cut. Not a single additional person working in a road system or a maintenance facility is losing their job. Literally, the amendment last week was to just not add 20 additional people to the budget. That was it. There's no additional road miles. They just got reapportioned through redistricting. So at the end of the day, all that means is that two commissioners have to work together. Commissioner Krause and I share a lot of boards. We work together. We work together on a lot of projects. I mean, it talks about cutting services. We've heard a lot of talk about cutting services. At the end of the day, we've actually provided more money in this budget for those particular services, being rental assistance, food assistance. There are more actual dollars going into the community in this budget than we're going to go in under the previous tax rate. So I do think that we have to start with a place of truth if we're going to have that conversation. But at the end of the day, no matter how much some folks want to position themselves as victims in this story, that's not the case. This court is showing up to be responsible for the citizens of Tarrant County, to be responsible for lowering the tax rate when we can, and doing it as effectively and efficiently as we can. And at the end of the day, the fact is no services are cut, Citizens will still receive the services that they ought to and that they elected us to provide. And so that's why I support this budget. It's never been about politics for me in this budget cycle, not one bit. But whenever we had an attempted, or I guess it wasn't a quorum break, but for some it was. And that to me was irresponsible. We can't do that to the citizens of Tarrant County. We don't operate that way here. We work together. We've worked together. And so I'm glad you're here, and I look forward to continuing to work together with you. So I appreciate your comments, I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Okay.
So before we vote,
Well, we also have speakers
oh,
too.
before the speakers. So just so I'm clear that I'm hearing what you're saying, you are not going to slash the budgets of Precinct 1 and Precinct 2. We're going to reinstate the budgets the way they were originally submitted.
Well,
That's a
that's.
second item.
That's something else?
It's the second item.
That's the second item, okay.
Second item, but also, I think you said two different things there.
Okay.
Not
Help me.
intentionally.
No.
But I think let's take that up when we
Okay.
get to the budget.
All right, okay.
Okay. Anything else before we go to speakers? All right, first speaker is Bishop Kirkland. Following Mr. Kirkland is Charles Wiedemeyer.
2%, the difference of what we're bickering over is 2%. 2% is not worth the employees being cast out in the street.
That's right.
I love JPS. If I have a broken arm or a minor injury, I don't want to go to JPS. But if I need a level 1, a A-level trauma center, I want to be at JPS. I'm a 22-year veteran Marine. It took all the discipline within my body to sit there and listen to you, Commissioner Ramirez. I was here Wednesday. The judge explicitly said that their staffs would be cut to one person. Now, we could come in and play charades and try to switch the horse behind the cart now because of the way it looked or the bias that there is. But the truth of the matter is the judge said what he said. And I sat in that seat and I heard him say what he said. And I think that is petty. I think that is childish. I think that is immature. I had an opportunity to speak with Commissioner Simmons, and I thank her for giving me her time. She's out of the state right now for a funeral. And I think it's bad. I think it's bad that on a Monday morning that we're sitting down and people who work for the county meet me in the elevator coming up or going down. So I'm glad you're here. I can't get out the door without people saying that because people walk around here on eggshells because they're frightened about the dictatorship. And we could come and we could have these meetings. I quit writing speeches. I quit writing speeches because I know y'all don't listen. And I'm not gonna spend 2 hours writing a speech that's gonna fall on deaf ears. All of this talking about how we need to come together to reason and bargain, that does not happen. We come in this room and everybody here know what the vote is going to be. Mm-hmm. It is only shifted one time in the last 2 years, and that's when you voted in that special meeting not to close those voting locations. Commissioner Ramirez, that has been the only time that there has been a switch in the way things are carried out around here. And let's tell the truth. He threatened to take these people's jobs. He threatened to send their staffs home. And for the people who live in the districts or the precincts I represent, they would have been harmed, they would have been damaged, and they would have been hurt by that retaliatory action.
Mr. Wiedemeyer. Following Mr. Wiedemeyer, we have Joe Palmer.
Good morning, Judge O'Hara, fellow commissioners. I'm here to support the lower tax rate and the adoption of the budget. I think those are good things. Tarrant County administration has earned my support by the fruit that you guys are producing. It's not the words that count, it's the fruit. I walked up here on the sidewalk, the brass was polished on, not only was the waste can empty, but the brass was polished, the building's clean, there's security outside, meetings are held in a respectful manner. Violators of that policy are ejected. I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Miles and Commissioner Manning. So the fruit is really good. One evidence of that fruit was something I uncovered in the Dallas Morning News, of all places, this weekend. There was an article about a new program that Tarrant County is adopting. It's called Count the Kicks. It's led by Dr. Brian Bird, health administrator, and it's a program to save children. Pregnant women can enroll in this program in Tarrant County at no cost and help themselves deliver healthy babies and avoid stillborn babies. In other places, it's adopted stillborns by 30%, and that translates to 43 babies saved in Tarrant County if we use this program. It's been adopted. It's currently being used by the Health Administration, and this is just another example of good management delivering good fruit in Tarrant County. So thank you all. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Palmer present? All right, if no, there's no spillover. All right, so next is read bills. Following Ms. Bills, we have Linda Ford.
The proposed 2025 tax rate is 0.1875, which is below the new revenue rate that would still be a decrease for Tarrant County taxpayers. The proposed lower tax rate comes at the expense of vital services to residents who are paying for these services with their tax dollars. Included in the sacrifices created to allow the proposed rate are the following: the Human Services Department that provides emergency rental and utility assistance, public health personnel who provide protection against disease and health care to county residents, reductions in staff positions for precincts 1 and 2 that provide services to half the county, and elimination of election sites that will suppress access to voting. I urge you to set the reasonable tax rate of 1.866 in order to continue to provide for the constituents you were elected to serve.
Is Linda Ford present? All right, next we would have, I'm assuming again, Harriet Harrell, and then Sandra Cooper.
I have concerns about the tax rate. If all 5 commissioners had worked together from March through August, you could and should have agreed on budget priorities and therefore what tax rate was actually needed. This decision should not be political. It should be based on the needs of the county. Instead, we are tossing fractions of cents around without clear information about what the impact really is on both homeowners and the county budget. For clarity, your court communication says that the 0.1862 rate will raise less than last year, but your resolution says it will raise 18 million more. I'm going with the resolution. So, the no new revenue rate from TAD is 0.1866. That is a cut from last year's 0.1875. Even so, projected tax revenue rises from last year's 511 million to about 538 to 555 million, well above last year. That means you could adopt the no new revenue rate of 0.1866 cut the tax rate from last year and still have millions more to meet the needs of a growing county. Yet you propose 0.1862, which still raises 18 millions more than last year, but your budget is $21 million less than last year. To be clear, even at your low rate, you have more tax revenue, but a smaller budget. Therefore, the service cuts in the new budget are not being forced by the tax rate. They are caused by your choice to cut jobs and provide fewer services. In summary, it only makes sense to stay with the no new revenue rate of 0.1866, cutting the rate while still giving the county significant new funds. And I urge you to involve staff and citizens in setting the priorities for how those additional funds are used. The Budget Office told us that budgets can always be changed. Let's make this one better.
Is Ms. Cooley present? Yes. Following Ms. Cooley, we have Buff Kaiser.
Good morning, Commissioners and Judge. I'm against the proposed budget, the lower tax rate. The cuts to critical services are too deep and will harm the people of Tarrant County that you have sworn to serve. And of course, it will hurt Black, brown, poor, and working poor people living on the edge the most. Can we just return to a responsible, humane, and civil court? This political nonsense going on at the top just freaks me out. It makes me shake to come here. It upsets me. I can't watch the news, and y'all are all just part of it. This is silly. And Judge, I hold you responsible. Matt Krause, you're next. And Commissioner Manny Ramirez, I don't know where your head is, but it's not helping the people of Tarrant County. Back to this, I've never felt the need to come down here when Judge Whitley was our judge. I trusted him, and I didn't come down here till I was 69, and that's all just because of Tim O'Hare. And Tim and Matt Krause, if you would like for me to sit at home, do your job. Represent the people of Tarrant County. Don't cut the stuff that our people need. Don't cut our hospitals, don't cut our funds for voting. This is just ridiculous. Y'all are children. And I'm an old lady, and I get tired of coming down here. Every time you're gonna save me $1 on my taxes, every time I come down here, I pay $10 to park. This is just nonsense and enough. In the words of Rodney King, can't we all just get along?
Following Mr. Kaiser, we have Dana Capoletti.
Commissioners, Buff Kaiser, resident of Fort Worth. Listening carefully to the tax rate discussions the last few meetings, I'm persuaded that the tax proceeds we have permit the proposed tax rate reduction. Tax rate reductions were an important component in the election campaigns of many of our commissioners, and something those who voted for you are looking to be realized. We need fiscal discipline in our county. We need to continue to trim excess spending and not knowingly underestimate revenue sources and levels experienced over many years. Balanced, sensible tax rates are not just good policy. They're essential to the long-term vitality and attractiveness of our area. They affect how families plan, how businesses invest, and how our community grows. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Is Ms. Capoletti here?
Yes, sir.
Following Ms. Capoletti, we have Pamela Young.
Good morning, Judge O'Hare. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for being here, and thank you for serving the citizens of Tarrant County. I'm here today to speak in support of the tax rate. I appreciate the fiscal conservative nature that this body has achieved. in reducing our taxes. I find that the well-being of our citizens in an era of rising property values and persistent inflation, providing even a small measure of tax relief demonstrates responsible stewardship of public funds and a commitment to keeping government lean while maintaining essential services. I don't need to take up a lot more time. I support what you're doing, and I thank you.
Thank you. Is Pamela Young present? All right, next we have Linda Hanratty. Following Ms. Hanratty is Doreen Geiger.
Please do not lower the county tax rate in these times of uncertainty. At September 3rd, 2025 meeting, I mentioned 3 strains on your budget: federal funding cuts, redistricting costs both for administrative changes and legal expenses, and potential legal liabilities for jail deaths. These are continuing issues. But in addition, higher inflation and the worsening job market will make the need for more county services, not less, imperative. County taxes have minimal impact on our overall real estate taxes, but your services are important. It is a slap in the face to taxpayers to cut county staff and thus services, while at the same time providing remaining county staff, including yourselves, a pay raise. Your raises are particularly galling, given your already relatively high salaries and your effort to stifle citizen comments by reducing Commissioners' Court meetings to 1 per month. Thank you.
Thank you. Doreen Geiger is next. Is Ms. Geiger here? All right, next is Nydia Cardenas. Following Ms. Cardenas is Estelle Williams.
Hello, and I know that in the rules, I'm not supposed to be calling you any names, so I'm actually here to call myself names, which is to say that I kind of feel like an idiot today because I still felt like you would have the best interest of our constituents, of our community in mind. And in continuing to cut our budget, I feel like, as the previous speaker was saying, you're not thinking long-term. Like, we're just one disaster away from a ton of people, just like we've seen in other parts of Texas. And do we have the ability to actually resource our community during those times right now? And we're seeing the federal government cut their budget. And so are we trying to rely on them like our city is doing, like Fort Worth is doing, of saying we need $40 million from the federal government in order to be able to pay our bills? And so I'm just really feeling like, wow, I thought that people who run for office maybe could still care about our constituents. But I feel like I keep coming to these meetings and feeling like an idiot. Like, what are we even doing here? Because you're centering your personal agendas and you're not actually thinking about the long-term health of our county. And just know that we are very excited to find people that are going to run against you.
Estelle Williams, is she present? All right, next is Alexander Montalvo. And then following Mr. Montalvo is Carla Paula Morris. Is that the last name or is there another one? Okay.
So we came here to Commissioners Court, but all we're getting is a bunch of community theater, it looks like. Because the gaslighting, the stench of the gaslighting is heavy in this room. Manny, you want to talk about people are supposed to come here to serve? I've never heard you actually press the sheriff to show up and to address the community and the number of deaths that are happening in the jail. I've never seen you push for accountability in that space. And then you want to gaslight everybody and say, oh, in Tarrant County, we're here to serve. No, what the three of you are here to do is to push an extremist agenda that is rooted in authoritarianism to try to destroy the lives of diverse community members. That is y'all's agenda. You don't want us reading books, Matt? They're gonna educate our community. O'Hare, you don't want us to have funds to try to protect communities that are dealing with hardships or need health services. You want to go on Twitter and call the opposition to your extremist values demons.
When have you
This
ever,
isn't
when have you
political.
ever seen me call anyone a demon?
Go
One
look at
time
your,
ever.
go
One
look at
time
your Twitter
ever.
account. Go look at your Twitter account.
Yeah, never.
Go look
Yeah.
at your Twitter account.
Yeah.
Go look at your Twitter account, okay? And the people can go look at your Twitter account too. You say this is not political, it's all political. Everything y'all are doing is political for power to oppress people. And I and others will continue to stand to fight against what y'all are trying to do in Tarrant County. And history shows us that we will win. That your approach and your rule through fascism is not going to work. A lot of people will get harmed, unfortunately, but in the end, we win. So, gaslight all you want the people of Tarrant County. Lie to them in your official seats that you have for the time being. But know that we will continue to organize to serve the people. And it doesn't matter what political party you're a part of, to be honest. If you're not going to serve the people, we are going to replace everybody who is not committed to that cause. And it is deeply disappointing, Roderick, that you are here today. And it is deeply disappointing to hear this performative speech you gave to start off this meeting. So, y'all are going to get what y'all want today, but it's going to be for a limited time.
Who are you, ma'am?
I'm Linda Ford.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Linda Ford. I wanted to thank y'all for being here today, and I also want to thank Commissioner Miles for coming. I know that this is a difficult situation, but I am in support of the tax cuts, and I understand it is not going to affect any of our services. So I feel like what y'all are doing is trying to help us out. My husband and I are getting towards that age where we're going to be retiring. And one of the things that we have looked at is what we can live off of through our investments and everything. And there's been some big discussions. And I just want to say anywhere we can save a penny or two, it does help. So I do appreciate it, appreciate you coming today, and I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Carla Palomares present? All right, that's the last speaker on this item. So we have a motion on a second and a second on this item. Any further discussion? Okay, please cast your votes. Okay, so the motion passes. How do I publish? I don't have a button. There it is. The motion passes 3-1. All right, now we are going to take this next item out of order so we can go have legal advice on the budget. So the next item on the agenda that we're going to take up is consideration of Tarrant County Hospital District's tax rate and resolution for tax year 2025. And I will make the following motion. I move that the property tax rate for the Tarrant County Hospital District be decreased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.1650 per $100 in value, which is a 9.59% decrease in the property tax rate and will raise less property tax revenue than the previous year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Discussion before speakers.
I'll just make one point. We keep talking about, Commissioner Miles, I know cutting services, making sure JPS stays at the top is one of your priorities. It's one of my priorities too. And I would not be voting for this if I thought we were hurting that in any way. If we remember, we go back to the numbers. We asked JPS, what do you need to fully function, fully plan for the future, fully help out? They said, we need this budget, plus we need to have about $151 million in net excess income at the end of the year. What we're voting on today would give JPS everything in their budget up to about, and then 124 to 126 million in their net excess income. And then we looked, remember, we had those sheets of paper that said, this year we budgeted this, and we actually took in more than we thought. We took in this, we took in more than we thought. Even last year, after the budget cut or the tax rate cut, they still took in $100 million extra dollars over what they had planned based on the budget. So I'm very confident that Tarrant County JPS system is going to make up that delta from the tax rate that we are having today, which only gives them $124 million net income. I bet you they, by the end of next year, they will come in not only at $151 million net excess income, which they said is what they absolutely need to do everything they want to do and everything they need to do. We're going to be over that number. And if not, I will be more than happy to say I was wrong in my analysis and my evaluation, how I looked at those numbers. But I also hope that if we come in above that number, that the people who are saying we're trying to hurt JPS, we're trying to hurt Tarrant County taxpayers from getting the health care that they need, I hope they will actually admit that they were wrong in their analysis, because no, I've not heard one person say who's against this tax rate cut, you know what, we were wrong last year. We thought this was going to hurt services, but JPS actually took in $100 million more than they said they were going to need. I haven't heard anybody say that, from the hospital to the citizens to other people talking. So I just hope we will all have this in context when we come back in here next year and JPS has taken in over 151 million net excess income dollars, that people will say, you know what, they were right in that analysis. We were able to deliver all the first-class, world-class care that we could at JPS that we need to do, which I want to continue to make sure we do without sacrificing any services or any ability to plan for the future. Let's just all be honest and be willing to admit if we were wrong or if we were right. And that's why I feel so confident in voting for this today, because we will come in next year. We will be above that 151 million excess number, and we will not have had to cut any services.
So I've heard a lot of terms, politics and gaslighting, and I was not aware property tax rate cuts were about politics, because I thought Republicans, Democrats, independents, and apolitical people all paid property taxes. In addition, the people who high property taxes hurt the most are the poor that we so often hear Democrats say they're for. And when you are cutting property taxes, you are helping the poorest in our community the most. While most people in this room getting back $35 or $50 is probably not that big a deal, for a lot of people in our community, it is a big deal, and it means a lot. But I've also heard a lot about gaslighting on not providing services. So last week, this court, and by the way, I haven't seen you till now, I'm glad you're feeling better, with you being sick, this court and the three people here present, who last I checked were all Republicans, voted for the JPS budget, a budget of $1.782 billion to provide care for the poor and those in need. So the idea that somehow we are taking money away from the brown and the black and the poors, the facts don't bear it out, but it doesn't stop many of you from repeating it over and over and over. The reality is, if you listen to Dr. Duncan, she specifically stated not one vital service would be cut, not one plan to treat people would change, and she said the exact same thing the year before when we lowered the tax rate, which produced $100 million more in profit than they had budgeted. So may sound good, may make for good talking points, but there is a level of dishonesty from people in this room and on social media, and you are the ones that continually cry politics, politics, politics. However, the reality is we are providing for people, and we are providing for care for the poor, and we are providing for members of every single community, regardless of color, ethnicity, national origin, or anything else. So the gaslighting, we know where it's coming from. It's not coming from here. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll just say, initially, anytime that the JPS rate comes up, I don't listen to pundits, I don't listen to talking points. I go directly to Dr. Duncan. I go directly to JPS leadership, the brand new CFO, the board members that are tasked with putting these plans together for future expansion and the rest. And absolutely, I'm committed, just as Commissioner Kraus said, to making sure that we maintain one of the best hospitals in the nation, because that's what it is. I mean, year after year, it's recognized it's one of the best hospitals in the nation. And so when I asked Dr. Duncan directly if this budget's responsible, if this budget will satisfy every single need that they need today and for the future, and she tells me yes, that's what my decision is based off of. I mean, JPS is deeply personal to me. I was born at JPS. I mean, it serves those who need service the most. And so I absolutely agree with your perspective that serving the people is the number one priority. I just don't see the controversy swirling when quite literally the sources of the people that put these budgets together, that put the plans in place, are informing us to make these decisions that it's responsible. And so that's why I support this tax rate. That's why I support it, is because the experts that are working in the field have told us that it's all right.
So I have not had the opportunity to speak to Dr. Duncan recently, but when she came to my office, her and I believe her name is Kim, the CFO.
Yep.
And they met with me, and they provided their budget and their proposed rate, which was below the no new revenue rate. She said that we can operate from this budget. When we came, the last time I was in court, and Matt, I believe is correct, came and did that presentation on the numbers, and it wasn't shared with us beforehand. It was presented at court. And Dr. Duncan and Kim were caught off guard. Well, that was my observation. It may not be accurate, but that was my observation. And they were like, it caught them off guard. And they said to me, when I met with them, the budget that they proposed was the one that they could operate and function from. And so that's the premise that I'm operating from, is from what they shared with me. They did not speak and share with me that they could operate from a lower rate that was proposed. I haven't had the opportunity to speak with her or Kim since that time. And the other thing that I will say is, we are guessing at this. We're guessing. We're making assumptions, and we are guessing at what will work for them. We don't know. Nobody has a definitive answer that this will work and this won't work.
Yeah, and I think that's very fair in reasoned analysis. I totally see how you get to that point, but I think you hit the nail on the head. We're guessing at this point.
I'm going to let Matt finish. Then I'm going to
I thought you still had some more.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I was just saying, I think we are guessing, but thanks to the data that Matt brought us at that meeting, every time we've guessed, we've underguessed it by a lot. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. So I think it's also fair and reasonable to say we could still lower the tax rate knowing that we do underguess by so much more every year and still get to the place that we want to be. Now, like I said, we could be here next August of 2026 and we didn't hit that number. We didn't even come close, because who knows of the various variables that happen in the world, in the country, in the state, in the local government. And I'm willing to say I was wrong, but I just don't think we're going to get there. So I agree with the analysis and how you got there. I just think you can also, we can get there even with the lower tax rate.
To your point, and I think I made the comment during that court session, I too do not like changing day of. Any plans, anything like that, I mean, we in the future need to have a working session prior to this court approving that budget, so that there are no, whether it was a surprise or not, so that there are no surprises, if that were the case. But at the end of the day, you know, when it was brought up, Dr. Duncan and Kim satisfied, my interest and concerns. But I do agree, going forward, we've got to collaborate a little bit closer. I mean, we always keep an arm's length. We put incredible board members on that JPS board to run that $2 billion hospital system so that we don't have to. But on that checks and balances, making sure we've got to make sure we're collaborating through the planning process so that it doesn't get to where we disagree or where there's any surprises year over year. So I agree with that point. That's well taken.
Thank you. And so, go ahead. Go ahead, Judge.
So Commissioner Miles, just a couple things. We had a meeting, myself, Chandler, Helen, Matt, with Kim and Dr. Duncan the Friday before that vote. So we went over a lot of these numbers. They put their own together, but I had put them together the previous 2 years. So everything except this year's numbers, I had put together and shared with previous courts. None of those numbers were a surprise to them. And discussing how do you budget, where's this, none of it was a surprise. But also, without naming names or trying to throw somebody under the bus, a board member met with me and said they would bring the budget over, go over it, and we could discuss the tax rate. They never came, they never showed up, and next thing I know, they were voting on it on a morning where they said they had to put in a placeholder. So when last week, when you were out, I went and talked to both of them in the hall during a break and said, if we pass this budget with the 16.5 rate, tell me where the money is going to be different. And the only two places it would be different is what they told me in their budget, is total property tax revenue taken in and total net income projected. So if the total net income projected is down, and I have my staff looking at this, we just don't have the answer yet. If it's down from their projected number, or the projected number I guess I would say we've passed, it will be the first time that we know of in 7 years where that would have happened. And that's only because we went back 7. So I'm having them go back at least 20 years to look and see what those numbers are. Because again, I don't think, and people can disagree, I don't think it's political looking at numbers and dollars and net income. But at the end of the day, what's the net income to be used for? The net income is to be used for the new tower and the new structures to build a new hospital. And that is going to be here. So looking at numbers, and this is one of the things you missed last week, unless you went back and looked at it or watched it or whatever, is in the capital plan, they have $35 million in the capital plan for tearing down the old hospital once the new tower is up. No one has reached out anywhere to see if somebody might want to buy the building, rent the building. Nobody has looked at anything. It was just tear it down and spend $35 million to do so. I think at the very least, that needs to be explored to look, is there a way for that to be a revenue generator as opposed to a $35 million hole taken out of bond money or taken out of property tax money. So I think all of those things are what anyone who has a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers, to people in need, you look at those things. It's not, I don't think that's political. If you want to think it's political, knock yourself out. But I think that's what we should do. And at the end of the day, we have oversight over this, whether we wish we did or we didn't. And I can't sit there in good conscience and just watch somebody go say, all right, we're going to spend $35 million, when somebody might have been willing to pay $10 million, fix that building up, and put in a new kind of medical facility, or put in housing for people that work at the hospital. There's tons of options that should be looked at, and I think moving forward, that's something that I suspect they'll do.
Okay. Last comment that I'll make on this is, when I did meet with Dr. Duncan and Kim, they talked about the capital fund, and the purpose for the capital fund was to plan for growth. I said, well, what is the occupancy of the hospital currently? She said, we're over 90%. That's now. I think that we need to be able to fund healthy funding for growth. We need to be able to make sure that they have more than enough money to do everything that they need to do, right? Because when the original bond was passed, prices were different. We were in a different time. Prices have escalated tremendously with tariffs and things of that nature. The cost has gone up, and I don't foresee the cost going down anytime soon to build. And then the other thing that I would ask us to consider and think about, when the cuts to Medicaid that have happened with the big beautiful bill, How is that going to impact JPS and their ability to take care of people? People who don't have insurance, people who don't have the benefit of having health care are already flooding the hospital. Those individuals who were depending upon Medicare, when it's gone, they're gonna flood the hospital even more. And it's not just gonna be JPS, it'll be private hospitals as well. And so those are things that I want us to consider when we're considering lowering the tax rate below what they already recommended, which was below the no new revenue rate. I mean, we could talk about this, we could debate about this all day. Those are just things that I think about and I consider.
Thank you. All right, anybody have anything else before we bring speakers? All right, the first speaker is Dion, it says
Sims.
Yeah, I didn't think that was what it was, but that's what it says. My apologies. Ms. Sims, then Bishop Kirkland.
Hi, I am Deion Sims, and Rod, you took the things that I was going to say. Thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. First of all, I want to speak to the danger of cutting JPS budget beyond even what their own board managers propose. The JPS board already presented a budget below the no new revenue rate, showing their fiscal restraint still protecting patient care. Yet this court has taken it even lower to 16.5. Let's be clear, JPS is not a luxury. It is a safety net hospital for Tarrant County, which has the best urgent care. Our first responders, when they are in situations, go to JPS. They don't go to, they go to, because we have the best trauma center at JPS. And so it's not just a safety net for the indigent and the low income, our first responders go there. And so cutting its budget in these uncertain times is short-sighted and harmful. Construction costs for the new hospital towers are rising. We still have the tariffs to deal with, and that's up and down. Who knows where that's gonna go? And once they're built, we still have to maintain and operate them. At the same time, we don't know yet the full impact of, like you said, President Trump's so-called big beautiful bill and its proposed cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. If those cuts take place, even the regular people, not the low and the indigent people, but regular people are going to be coming to JPS for care. And that's not just, you know, unconscionable to think that we're going to be cutting people in an uncertain time. So reducing their resources now undermines our country's and our counties' ability to meet that challenge. And for what? An average taxpayer savings of $30 a year, while JPS loses millions that it needs to keep our community healthy. It's really not a fair trade-off. And I think that people, even those who, you know, say that their property taxes, you know, could be reduced by that little, would be willing to support our county. And so for the record, I just oppose this dangerous reduction and urge the court to restore funding to at least what they proposed to protect the health and dignity of Tarrant County citizens.
Thank you. Bishop Kirkland, and then Joe Palmer.
I want to start by saying, Judge, when we go off script, you throw us out or you redirect us. Because Alex upset you, you went back to the last topic. But because it's your playpen, you get to do as you please. The thing that bothers me most, and there's a trust issue, number one, but the thing that bothers me most, in all due respect, I'm not challenging your integrity, Mr. Ramirez, or even Judge O'Hara when you met people in a corridor, or even you when you said they came to, Dr. Duncan came to your office. Those are all sidebars. We're not in those sidebars. We don't know what's discussed. All we know is what the CEO said to us and what Dr. Duncan said to us in this room. Now, let's forget how brilliant, because if you take numbers and you're good enough, you can make numbers say whatever you want them to say. So Matt and Mr. Matt, I don't like first names. I looked at your presentation, it was great, but you're not a CEO of a hospital. You're not a doctor. So that was frivolous to me. They came and stood at this podium. They held their heads in their hands, gasping during that meeting because of what we were saying was not adding up to what they needed. So our problem is when you have these sidebars, when these people do talk to you, you come talk to people who don't see you as trustworthy trustees and tell us about some side deal. We'd love to be on those conversations. All I know is what they said in this room. So regardless of how we can manipulate the numbers, there is no way you could tell me you could do less, do more with less. There's no way. And I do want to say, and I feel a little weird saying I agree with Judge O'Hara in this aspect, that there is something we do need to do rather than spending $35 million. There are some more options that need to be explored. And it just makes me feel funny inside when I agree with you.
You might not recover. All right. Is Joe Palmer present? All right, next we have Dr. Harrell. Following Dr. Harrell, we have Sandra Cooley.
You've probably all been through leadership training in one context or another, and I suspect you were told what every leadership course emphasizes. You're not a leader unless you have followers, and followers follow only those whom they respect. I am asking for respect from you to the Tarrant County Hospital District, an essential partner for this county. It deserves respect, and so does its leadership. Not one of you is trained as a physician, nor have you run a large public hospital. So it is folly to assume that you can determine how much revenue is required to provide the health care services that our residents need now and in the future. Once again, it's the process that I'm concerned about. Clearly, all 5 commissioners have not had the same information about what you are proposing for the hospital district. Nor are you fully informed about the needs for their reserves. How much do you know about health threats they must prepare for? You've assumed that reserves are extra money that's unnecessary. You show that in the county's own budget where your cash reserves are below the level recommended by financial experts. Here's the point. You don't have the expertise to run a county hospital district. They are professionals at county health care. Yes, there may be times that there are county-wide financial contingencies that force tough decisions. There may be times you have good ideas to offer to them. But cutting their tax rate without fully working with them in consultation in advance and without information on service impact is irresponsible. I heard Dr. Duncan last week calling in the CEO at the last minute to bless your decision is not respect. So I urge you to restore the hospital district to their proposed budget and commit to working with them as a true partner before making uninformed decisions about their budgets in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cooley is next. Following Ms. Cooley, we have Pamela Young.
I'll make this brief. I hope that you're right. I hope that next year we come in and you've got lots of extra money. But my concern is the needs will exceed the budget. And I just see more needs and more uncertainty every day. So I hope y'all are right. I don't believe you are, but I will say so next year if you are.
I will too.
Is Pamela Young present? All right, how about Randy Jordan? Is Mr. Jordan present? All right, Robert Van.
September 3rd of this year, those of us present at the Tarrant County Commissioners Court were upset and embarrassed to witness the shameful, ignominious harassment of two high-ranking female officers of a public institution called before this court to provide a financial report. As people who were in attendance at that marathon session have noted, Dr. Duncan, President and CEO of the John Peter Smith Health Network, and a very bright, though still new to her job, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Kim Hodgkinson, made a lengthy and detailed presentation accompanied by numerous projected slides and fielded questions by the court, only to be ambushed by Judge O'Hare with the information that he intended to cut the tax rate, helping to fund GPS, by over 9%. A matter that could have and should have been broached and discussed prior to ever reaching the floor. And I would thank you for bringing that up as well, Commissioner Ramirez, seemingly became an opportunity for a bit of grandstanding. JPS is, of course, in the midst of a sizable expansion and building program, and with the cuts to public services being implemented by Republican administrations at county, state, and federal levels, JPS will quite likely be having to accommodate an increasing influx of people for whom they are the last affordable hope for dealing with medical problems. Now, none of us wants to pay more taxes than necessary. But there is, of course, a direct correlation between taxes paid and services provided and received. The Scandinavian countries pay very high taxes, but those taxes pay for, among many other things, excellent free or nearly free health care and a free education through university or trade school. The fact that JPS has reported a healthy profit for several years, a profit which can be invested in improved services and better facilities, should attest to good management and not provide a target on their backs for this court. Leave their tax rate alone. No cuts, except, that is, to the harsh treatment meted out to female executives appearing before this court.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion from the court? All right, seeing none, cast your votes. All right, the votes are cast. Tax rate passes 3-1. Now, before we move on from that item, one other, well, it's this item, but I would agree 100% that the ability to work with JPS, look at their budget, go over it, ask questions, have our people look at it in advance is the appropriate way to go. What you may or may not be aware is that for the last several years, we got no budget. We got slides. We never saw a budget. If you look at the budget that Dallas County gets from Parkland, it's a foot thick, line item by line item. We requested a budget this year from JPS. They agreed to provide it by a certain date. It did not show up. Then when it showed up, there were lots of things still missing. So I have asked our staff to prepare a resolution that will come to this court sometime in the next 30 to 60 days with some deadlines for us to get financial documents and information from JPS so we all have a chance to look at it, decipher it, know what's in there, and see it in advance where we can ask any and all questions we want instead of, here's the slideshow, tell us what you think. And so you will all have a chance to weigh in on it, vote on it. You'll see it when it shows up when they are done preparing the document. Okay. Now we will go into recess, executive session to discuss any legal implications, requirements regarding 5A2, consideration amendment to the Precinct 1 and Precinct 2 fiscal year 2026 budgets. The time is 11:12. Executive session, I think, take a break. It should begin no later than 11:20, and then we will come right back in and take action if action needs to be taken. With that, we are in recess. All right, we are back from executive session. The item we will now address is 5A2, consideration of amendment to the Precinct 1 and Precinct 2 fiscal year 2026 budgets. So I will make the following motion with Mr. Cradaville stepping in if I don't say this perfectly understandable. I move to amend the fiscal year 2026 budget to restore the following items to the levels proposed in the last Commissioners Court meeting, fiscal year 2026 budgets for precincts 1 and 2, to the following. Number of full-time employee positions in the precinct administration offices of precincts 1 and 2, go back to the 5 each. Salary amounts for all precinct 1 and 2 administration positions, go back to the same dollar amounts proposed on that September 16th, 2025 Commissioners Court budget. Travel budgets for precincts 1 and 2 back to the level of the fiscal year 26 budget on the September 16th, 2025 Commissioners Court agenda. And 12 positions identified by the Commissioner of Precinct 1 to be transferred to the Road and Bridge Department for Commissioner Precinct 2's Road and Bridge Department. Did I say that accurately with full understanding of what that means?
Judge, I am clear on all of that. If budget is on the same page with us, I don't think there's
Is
any.
that clear? Okay. But for the three of you up here, was that clear to you as to what that meant?
Yes.
Whether you agree with it or not, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Judge, may I ask
Judge.
one thing?
Certainly.
Could it be instead of, did you say 12?
I did.
Instead of 12, 16 total?
Yes, it's 16.
Yes.
So, okay, so,
Does it matter that we said 12 last time?
I thought
No, it's 16. It's always been 16.
Okay. So I thought last time it said 12. My motion that I just read, I want it to say the number that was previously agreed to in part of the budget. So if that is 16, I will say 16.
16.
Okay. That does not include new positions in Road and Bridge Fund. All right, is everybody clear on what the motion means?
Yes.
Okay, now, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the court members? All right, seeing none. First speaker, Dion Sims. Second is Bishop Kirkland.
Good morning again. Dion Sims. Again, thank you for allowing the opportunity to speak. First, I want to make clear that using the people of Tarrant County as political pawns is neither humane or right. Today, the Commissioner Miles is present, and the budget will move forward like it did, because like Commissioner Simmons refuses to let his district or his county suffer. That should settle the question of whether withholding votes was not about hurting people. It never was that. The truth is that breaking quorum, he was sick, but, as an act of a principle to stand against a maneuver that forced through cuts without accountability, retaliating against districts 1 and 2 originally by slashing their staff, their travel budget, and road crews does not serve taxpayers. It only weakens our ability to serve the very communities who rely on our county services. We should be working together to craft a budget that reflects the needs of all Tarrant County, and now that it's restored, that's okay, but not punishing certain districts to score political points. The people elected in all 5 commissioners, not just 3, and their voices exert equal weight. at this table. And I urge this court to rise above retribution and commit to governing fairly, responsibly, with respect to all of every precinct in Tarrant County. I think targeting the two districts is not our better self. And the fact that we, as a county, as a group of people, all look to you guys to lead us fairly, last week really did stink to see that come as amendments to strong arm. That was a precedent that didn't need to be set. And I think that our county deserves better, and that we shouldn't ever reach back to that, because you do it to one now, you have to do it, and it will happen to others again. That was unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop Kirkland. Following Bishop Kirkland, we have Joe Palmer.
I think this chamber is no place for words and phrases like bias, implicit bias, retaliatory, irresponsible, cognitive disassociation, imbued, copious, capricious, authoritarianism, fascist or fascism, and more than anything, pettiness. Dr. Harold and Ms. Beals are some of the most pointed speechwriters that I've ever heard. I just hate that they waste their time preparing documents to come here to sway this body, and no one never listens to them. The people that things like this affect the most don't even come in this room. Those are the people that we were willing to sacrifice. I agree with the gentleman that stated as he walked up that the lawn is well manicured and everything is tidy and neat. And I could appreciate that being a Marine and an anal person. And I agree with him, there is fruit that this body produces. All fruit is not good fruit. The fruit that this body produces more than anything in our community, every person of color understands what strange nectar is. You're producing fruit, but the fruit is called strange nectar. I went to the 911 museum this summer with about 30 of the youths from our ministry. And it reminded me of a time when this nation was united for a brief season. In my 60+ decades, I have never seen this nation united as it was during 9/11. But somehow, we've fallen back into our own partisanship, we've fallen back to our own ways, and we're not thinking about each other very much these days. I wish there was something that the judge and Commissioner Krause and Commissioner Ramirez would do for my village to increase our faith that what you're doing is in the best interest of our county and not the Republican Party. As I hurry to my seat, Commissioner Krause, I want to decline your invitation to watch anything that has to do with Charlie Kirk. God rest wherever he is.
Man, you're missing out. I wish you'd reconsider.
Is Mr. Palmer present? All right, next we have Jimmy Blackwell. Following Mr. Blackwell, we have Reed Bills. All right, is Reed Bills present? You're up. Then E.J. Carrion.
This doesn't lower. I want to make one point about your new technology. That clock and that one don't jibe, and it's very
Okay,
annoying.
we'll see if we can get that fixed.
Okay. Judge O'Hare threatened to do to the residents of precincts 1 and 2 what President Trump did to the minority population of Fort Worth. The president ordered the city council members to remove DEI from city programs in order to continue to receive money from the government that Fort Worth residents paid in federal taxes. Judge O'Hare ordered Commissioners Miles and Simmons to appear at this court meeting in order to continue receiving salaries for their staff from the budget the residents of precincts 1 and 2 paid for in county taxes. In the city's case, a portion of its population will suffer from lost services that provided protection from discrimination. In the county's case, however, half of its population would have suffered from vital lost services. In both cases, a mean-spirited elected official threatened to bring hardship on the constituents they were elected to serve in order to have their personal demands met.
Next, we have E.J. Carrion, then Dr. Harrell.
The last time I was here was when 100-plus county residents stood against redistricting and calling the county maps a racial gerrymander. I'm a resident of Fort Worth and Precinct 1, and I'm already upset that you packed our city's black and brown population into one precinct, limiting our influence and representation on the court. But that is not enough for you three. You all are wanting to threaten to now racially gerrymander our representation by fully staffing predominantly white precincts and giving the larger minority precincts one staff member for political points. Precincts have the same number of residents. This targeting is deeply concerning, and I can't imagine this action is good for us in a lawsuit that we're currently wasting tax dollars on. The action to eliminate staff is another racist action regardless of intention because it harms black and brown residents in a negative way. Political warfare you conducted is childish. Now to my commissioner. I continue to be concerned that you're unaware of the dire situation this county is in, as these three members on this dais want to pursue an authoritarian Christian nationalist agenda. There were thousands of people downtown on Saturday for a right-wing podcaster. A speaker at the rally ripped a flag that represented unity and respected the LGBTQ community. The sponsors for the rally included Patriot Mobile, who led in the banned books crisis across North Texas. You also had Texas True Project, Mr. Krause's org, who successfully put the 10 Commandments back in public schools. These people don't believe, the sheriff was there. He can't make it to court, but the sheriff chooses to be there where he, quote, says, don't believe them. This is a Christian nation. You also have for Justice and Liberty, a PAC who supports Nate Scatzline, who was also a speaker there, who tried to pass a House Bill 1375 to arrest independent bookstores if they have certain books against his Christian extremist values. While you have always been respectful, we can't say that about the judge. Since we're talking about his tweets, here is a tweet from the adult who's making over $200,000. Democrats have become the party of illegal aliens, pedophiles, and murderers and communism. These people are not Glenn Whitley. They're not Betsy Price. They keep going 2 steps to the right, and you keep taking 1 step to try to meet them in the middle. I'm tired of powerful speeches and powerless times. Please be bolder and have courage to fight against bullies. Hundreds of thousands of residents are counting on you.
Following Dr. Harrell, we have Sandra Cooley.
First of all, thank you for this amendment that reverses the punitive action that you took last week. I assume a portion of that comes because surely you realize that you cannot disadvantage half of the county. I know that you were upset because you wanted to pass the tax rate last week and you were, and that was blocked. But what you did was not just punish 2 commissioners, it was to punish the people they represent. In other words, half of the county would have lost services. And remember, after the recent redistricting, precincts 1 and 2 are majority Black and Latino. Their commissioners are Black. By contrast, precinct 3 is overwhelmingly white. Nearly 3/4 of its citizen voters are white. Precinct 4 is more mixed, but still majority white when measured by citizen voting age population at about 57%. I know that you don't want your actions to be considered racist, but it's hard to look at that amendment that you passed last week and not see its disproportionate impact. The consequences would have been that half of our residents would not have had equal access to their commissioner. Their offices would have lacked staff to respond, to solve problems, to keep roads and bridges safe. Half of the county would have lived with fewer services, while the predominantly white half of the county would have kept everything intact. In addition, that amendment would have fired good, hardworking employees without reason. Every month, this court celebrates what fine employees we have, but because you were upset, you were willing to discard them because you didn't get your way. I am sure that all of that would have been found to be illegal, and I assume that your several executive sessions have guided you around that way. I was going to ask if you could really look at us and say you were proud of that amendment. I'm glad that you have gotten rid of it, and I hope you will vote to restore what you should never have tried to take away.
Following Ms. Cooley, we have Charles Bills.
It's my understanding that you've reversed your amendment. Okay. Let's don't do that again, please. I mean, it's good that you reversed it, but let's don't get angry and hurt half the county, please. Thank you.
Mr. Bills. Following Mr. Bills, we have Pamela Young.
Well, I agree with what she said. One thing is collective punishment, punishing innocent people because you want to punish somebody, specifically Alyssa Simmons, it's basically a cliche, biting your nose off or something like that to spite your face or something like that. Anyway, the people that were going to be fired, they are Lisa's, employees, but they are actually the people's employees. They were helping people, and depriving them of what they need is just wrong. And with the threatening road, funds, that's even worse, because that, you might be driving down some road and that is not maintained, and, it destroy your car in a pothole or something. So, basically, like they said, that it's just never a good idea. The analogy is like a teacher making all the kids put their heads on the desk because one of them's disruptive, in order to hopefully they rat that kid out, or that kid, gets punished later. But, basically all the other kids, they don't resent that kid that was disruptive, they resent the teacher. So that's the same situation. Thanks.
Next is Pamela Young. Is Ms. Young here? Next is Libertad Heredia, and then Doreen Geiger.
So personally, I'm still stuck on the comments that were made by the commissioners about how all of this shouldn't have to do with politics, when we can all clearly see that this was an act of political punishment to begin with. Threatening the staff of commissioners that you disagree with, who you hadn't even apparently conversed with because you didn't even know that Commissioner Miles, what his reasons for not being here last week. I mean, it's really, charitably unprofessional. Why is it that you guys are discussing policy and figuring things out in front of us in real time and seem to have collectively no real idea of what you're doing with the county and toying with people's lives? It really does seem like it really is all politics, things to talk about during your re-election campaign, Judge, for example. And again, Manny, no manches. O sea, at the end of the day, this was incredibly punitive. These kinds of tactics are right at home in authoritarian countries. And I mean, I know that's where we're headed, but I thought maybe we could have shared values here on the county level, to stand against that kind of behavior. I also want to emphasize that threatening to cut the road and bridge crew for Precinct 2, a redistricted precinct with nearly 190 new miles, because of the redistricting they did, is reprehensible specifically. And I guess to echo what other people are saying, don't do this again if you have the self-restraint. It's really tough to watch you guys weaponize the empathy that Commissioner Miles has for his staff, and Commissioner Simmons as well. And speaking of empathy, just because he's been brought up multiple times for some reason in this court, and there was that rally downtown, which I suppose you guys attended. I wish Charlie Kirk had been the guy that you're trying to portray him to have been, because the world would have been much better if he had been. But he, much like you guys seem to behave sometimes, had limited empathy for people who don't align with him politically, and it affected lives in very real ways. And maybe don't follow his footsteps in that regard. That's not a role model anybody should have. And that's all I have to say. I really hope you guys do better, but regardless, your time on that day is limited because we will be working to replace you.
Hey, is Ms. Geiger here? All right, no. Next, we have Billy Wilson and then James Perkins.
Crystal Mason should not have been prosecuted. Hyder Garcia did a good job. The election integrity unit is a joke. Anthony Johnson should be alive, and since he's not, his family should be paid. See how you looking. This falls under what I call wrong-headedness when I come and talk. Wrong-headed is when representatives who represent an ideology, personal grievance, service to the dear leader, instead of representing their community. Mr. O'Hara, I wish to remind you that you represent all of Tarrant County. I did not vote for you because I know people in Farmers Branch, and they were so relieved when you left because they believed that you were more concerned with solidifying your position as a champion for conservative, and some might say white nationalist values, than serving the community. And you were referred to as a petulant child who divided city leadership and the community. So here we are. You wish to harm the people of District 1 and 2. You threatened to harm the people of District 1 and 2 because Ms. Simmons would not go along with your policies. We believe are detrimental to our community. You want to take your ball and go home. But let me remind you that many of those in these districts voted for you. Cutting the budget and personnel will bring harm to the community due to the lack of representation, inefficiency, and the lack of funds for Black and brown communities, and would harm our communities. You once said that if you were not being accused of racism, you were not doing a good job. Let me say, good job. I come to ask you that you do what is best for 1 and 2, which you have, by reversing your opinion, and we appreciate that. To Mr. Kraus and Mr. Ramirez, we like to say, don't vote for something that you wouldn't allow in your district. Would you allow your district to be cut, but yet you voted for it? I noticed that you say that you made decisions based on people that you have talked to, the experts. One thing I noticed that you did not say you talked to is us. We've been coming here, 3-4 years now, trying to get something done about the jail. You haven't talked to us. Which minority groups did you talk to who work with youth and help them try to reduce crime? Because I know they're here. Who of them have you talked to? If you only talk to the people who think like you think, you cannot say you represent us, because we do not think like you think. We are the underprivileged of this community, our community, and we will stand up for it. And as they say, we will vote you out. And so we invite you, talk to us. Oh, and you shook your head when she asked that did you agree with your decision? I think you shook your head and said yes.
Thank you, sir.
You agree with the decision last year?
Mr. Wilson, thank you. Your time is up.
I saw your head going up and down.
Next, we have James Perkins. Mr. Perkins is up. Following Mr. Perkins, we have Stephen Alford.
Hello, my name is James. I am a resident of Tarrant County, here to speak out against the recklessness from this court's majority, Judge Tim O'Hare, Commissioner Kraus, and Commissioner Ramirez. Let's be clear, restoring staff for precincts 1 and 2, reinstating the road and bridge crew, and returning commissioners other resources is not generosity. It's not compromise. It's a bare minimum correction to a retaliatory stunt that should never have happened in the first place. Punishing elected representatives and gutting their ability to serve their districts was a blatant abuse of power, and walking it back now doesn't erase that fact. And even with those restorations, the core harm of this budget remains. The tax rate you approved still strips millions of dollars from the services our communities rely on. This budget still means cutting public health funding, closing the Human Services Department, eliminating polling locations, and weakening our public hospital system, JPS, at the very moment our county needs it most. This is not fiscal responsibility. That is cruelty. That is neglect. That is sabotage. The Republican majority has made its priorities crystal clear, and those priorities do not include public health, infrastructure, or democracy. Your priority is political warfare, and our communities are left paying the price for your decisions. I stand with my commissioner, Commissioner Simmons, in refusing to legitimize a rigged, unjust process. That was not obstruction. It was a principled action. It was leadership. It is drawing a line in the sand, something you all could stand to learn from. And to Commissioner Miles, the community is watching. Your lack of unity is an act of betrayal of your district and every person who trusted you to protect their interests and act as a leader. The path forward is clear. We will not forget these votes, and we will replace commissioners who do not serve the people with leaders who will. We are watching, we are organizing, and we are not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Alford present? Following Mr. Alford, we have Alexander Montalvo. Is the last speaker after him? Is that what I'm seeing? Correct. It's half covered? Okay. Okay, got it.
After Mr. Montalvo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stephen Alford, Precinct 4. I'm in favor of the action that you took to restore Commissioner Simmons and Miles' budgets and staff. Reducing those budgets and staff in retaliation to a failure to reach quorum was an anti-democratic action. The fact that these items have been restored does not erase the unequal retaliation action that was taken last week. The option of a quorum break for Commissioners' Court meetings concerning the levying of taxes has long been enshrined in Texas law. It ensures that the issue of taxation is treated as special, which I think you all agree with. You must have 4 members of the court to address those issues. And this is about democracy and representation. This law usually affects counties such as Harris County, where it prevents a majority of big D Democrat court from changing taxes without working with their Republican colleagues. Our democratically elected Texas legislators continue to stand by this law. Presumably, the Republicans of this court would support their Harris County colleagues. If the majority of this court disapproves of this quorum law, they should take it up with the Texas legislature and not through retaliation, which was an action of, well, democracy for me, but not for thee. Reducing commissioners' budgets and staffs from 5 positions to 1 drastically reduced their ability to represent their constituents. The people who live in those precincts always deserved a complete staff to address their needs when roads and bridges and other critical matters demand attention. It was unfair, unrepresentative, undemocratic that some precincts should benefit from 5 times the staff of other precincts, of their neighbors. The fact that this court even contemplated that action is appalling. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Mr. Montalvo, we have Andrea West. Is that the right name?
So I think it's important for everyone to really understand what we're witnessing here today. This is textbook steps in the cycle of abuse. So O'Hare understands the role of abuser because that's how he's leveraged his positions of power no matter where he's been. He makes a demand, just like an abuser will in a relationship, gets upset when his demands aren't met, he doesn't get what he wants. He then moves into inciting violence, which is what that amendment was last week, putting an act of violence against precinct 1 and 2, take away staff, harm community, harm half the county. Then today we see the next stage, which is reconciliation. Hey, we're just here to work together as an abuser does. Hey, we love each other. We were here to work together. And the last part of that stage is to present calmness after making the demands, inciting violence, and pursuing reconciliation. And here you all three sit calmly, especially O'Hare, when he can stay disciplined. This cycle of abuse is something that the residents of Tarrant County will not sit back and just accept. And Roderick, in this scenario, you're the battered partner after incurring violence and receiving violence to try to work it out. And my charge to you is to understand, just like we would encourage anyone in our family who is dealing with abuse, do not try to curry favor from your abuser, because they are who they are, and they will continue to do what they will do to get what they want. And so I want to condemn sorry, that's the wrong word. I'm all riled up now. I want to share my gratitude and appreciation to Commissioner Simmons, who is not here. As the only woman on this commissioner's court, it's very clear to me that she understands what an abuser looks like, and she has been working and leading accordingly. And I and others will continue to support leaders who understand the moment we're in, so that we will actually not only fight for community, but ultimately win for community. The three of you are not fooling anybody. Your performative talking points and speeches don't do anything. And I'm thankful for EJ sharing your tweet, O'Hare, and I noticed you having to go back and forth with him, so maybe one day you'll address that too.
All right, is Ms. West present?
Good afternoon. Honorable members of the Tarrant County Commissioners Court, my name is Andrea West, and I'm here today on behalf of Fort Worth City Councilwoman Dr. Mia Hall, who represents District 6. District 6 spans a broad and diverse area that includes constituents from precincts 1, 2, and 4, as well as portions of the ETJ. These residents rely heavily on the services and infrastructure maintained across these precincts, especially the roadways, maintenance crews, and emergency response access that keeps our communities connected and safe. Reducing the funding for precincts 1 and 2 would have had real consequences, not just for roads and bridges, but for the people who maintain them. Reducing staff capacity means slower response times, deferred maintenance, and an overall decline in the quality of service our residents depend on every single day. We recognize the challenges that come with budgeting across a growing county, but infrastructure and service delivery are not optional. They are fundamental. Taxpayers in every precinct deserve the same standard of care, regardless of where they live. As elected officials and public servants, we have a shared responsibility to meet the needs of our residents. That includes working across jurisdictions and precinct lines to ensure that no community is disproportionately impacted. On behalf of Councilwoman Hall and the residents of District 6, thank you for your time and your service, and I continue to urge you to prioritize continued investment in the staff and infrastructure that serve our communities every single day. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is it, Mr. Cradaville, is it possible to make an amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to submit an amendment to the motion stating that we add 15 additional FTE positions to the Commissioner Precinct 2 Road and Bridge team.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Anyone going to second it? All right, motion fails due to lack of second. Now we have the original motion and a second. Any discussion on this item before voting? All right, seeing none, please cast your votes. Okay, it passes 4-0. The last item we have on the agenda is appointments to various boards or commissions. Do we have any board or commission appointments from any of the commissioners? All right, so I will make a motion to appoint Blaine Sibby, Zachary Kate, and Ross McMullen, with Ross McMullen as chair, to the Civil Service Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that item. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously, and there is no other executive session to take, so we are now officially adjourned.